I knew that.
Yes, appreciate it.
They don't really know what it's
I assume that's what it is behind.
Sammy, I loved your food so much. Yeah. It's not till May 20.
It's not till May
22. Yeah. And, you know, it's an open house. It's whatever. So,
Yeah.
Somebody here for Shabbat. Yeah.
So I might do it.
Yeah. No. It's totally.
Well, we really.
It's always like, you meet the family. But,
Yeah.
that's good to see. I don't always get to say hi. You're behind all of these.
Yeah.
When you were part of the group of, what's the right word? Important VIP.
Oh, yeah, that's us. Thanks for noticing.
Shabbat shalom. Hey, crew. Hey, Lee. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. And Shabbat shalom to everyone who's joining us on Zoom and on YouTube through the streaming. We're looking forward to bringing Shabbat together. We have a bat mitzvah this weekend, and it's going to be Sammy's bat mitzvah. And so we are an assorted travelers group. As many of you already know, the Friday night service in a little bit as we begin is the idea is that we're all pilgrims and our destination is Shabbat. And when we sing the special psalm, you've heard me say it a million times, which will be on page 15, Psalm 95. It was the pilgrim psalm that was said when you arrived at Jerusalem, when you made a voyage there, a trip there in the Middle Ages and beyond. Remember, they didn't have travel. So whoever was showing up at Jerusalem at the same time would stop and say the psalm of arrival, the psalm of gratitude. So we're like pilgrims. I mean, we're not like, that's what it is. We are all pilgrims. Our destination is the same, which is for the next 45 minutes. Our destination is we are at the gate of Shabbat and we're entering it together. And we're lucky to have relatives and loved ones from out of town. We're lucky to have this family that's celebrating their first child's ascension to adulthood in the context of many generations of pride in their tradition and the values of family and of Judaism, and other families who have gone through this already and to understand these connections that are so important between and among the generations, and having Shabbat be the context of our inheritance and celebrating it together. So we will begin with candle lighting tonight. I'm going to invite up the grandmothers and Samantha at this time. I invite everyone to rise. Or my grandparents. See, I never know whether we're egalitarian. So I invite you to come and stand up here. I'm the only one authorized to play the choir. So let's bring in Shabbat together. Let's sing together. Would any of you like to sing at this time? Maybe said you weren't, but I'm the person you were not expected to. But can I ask you to do this? But I've learned to respect a family. Always give them the opportunity to take this in their heart. But let's use the tradition of candle lighting, at least many of us grew up with. It was also your family tradition. It was in my home. That we said a silent blessing over the candle as a wish for Shabbat or for family, for each other. Okay, and my mother was the source of this. I never knew what she had in her heart, but I knew it was a wish for us. So just in your heart, a silent wish for Sammy. This weekend, and for the family. Let us say. Let's sing together on page 13. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei el yon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu ni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei el yon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Seidchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. The 4 verses of Shalom Aleichem, Shalom to you, come in peace, bless me in peace, and may you go in peace, which in one of the rabbinic traditions is about parenthood. It is about a couple wishing for maybe their first child, because I know you've been triply blessed. But when you're wishing for and hoping for a child, the rabbis say this is like the love between 2 people that is also inviting a third in. So you say, Shalom Aleichem, peace to you. You're looking at the well of souls, even if you don't realize you're looking at the well of souls, your soul is, and you're saying, Boachem l'shalom. Will a soul come to us? And then there's a soul like Sammy's that says, you guys will do as my parents. You're the right parents to babysit this soul for God. And you go. And then the 3rd verse is considered to be this weekend. When you reach the age of your adulthood, your maturity, then your parents get to turn to you and say, now you have to bless us. You're a blessing to us because you're capable. You have a lot of power. I mean, we enjoy when you're younger, but this is a time where from this point forward, we too can be the receiver of your ability to bestow blessing. And then Seidchem l'shalom, we raise our children to leave us. We know that there's a time when you have to bring your blessings to the world, but that 4th verse can wait a little longer. We're L'chuna Ranana on page 15. Let's sing the arrival of we pilgrims at Shabbat with gratitude for the beautiful time we're going to get in the next 27 hours. L'chuna Ranana l'Adonai. Nariha litzor yishenu, nikadma fanav, b'tohoda, bizmirot nariha lo. As we drift to the bottom of the psalm, God tells us not to complain, because although there's time during the week for judgment and correction, we have to have space in our lives just for to put judgment aside. So for the next 27 hours, 26 hours, may we experience the world as beautiful. We don't have to focus on the obvious places that it needs correction. And you too, Sammy, tomorrow, you need no correction. Everything you say is meant to be. Every syllable that is uttered is music to us. So there's no judgment from this point forward. We're commanded it in the service. May we not find any place the world falls short. Let's give ourselves that gift that God is asking us to receive. And that's the meaning of the final 3 lines. Arba'im shana akut bedor va'omar am to'e levavhem v'hem lo yadu dirachai asher nishbati v'yapi im yevon el menuchati. I'm going to share a poem at this time. So the poem I chose tonight is by, I'm a lover of Spanish poetry, and this is from a book long out of print called Recent Poetry of Spain. But this is a poem from the poet Leopoldo Pinero, and I will do you a favor by only reading it in English because my Spanish pronunciation is not so great. It's not an easy one. It's called Written at Every Instant. In order to create the word God, our word searches inside the heart. In order to create the word God, our word searches inside the heart for its own likeness and doesn't find it. as the waves of a tranquil sea, one after another, all equal, want to measure the exactitude of the infinite while they sing. So our heart looking inside itself for its likeness and doesn't find it, and it's trying to create a word like the waves of a sea, one after another, trying to measure the exactitude of the infinite while singing. And God's name without letters, written at every instant by the foam, is erased at every instant, rocked by the music of the water, and only an echo remains on the shore. What infinite number does the heart count for us? Each throb once more is sweeter, over and over again, once more blindly from within, trying to pronounce the name. And once again, thought becomes shadowy, and the voice doesn't reach it. It's within the heart. We are your children, even though we may never know how to utter the exact word, which is your name, that repeats in the soul the sweet and constant whirling of the stars. As we go through the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, we're on page 16. We're going to go real fast, so get ready. Psalm 96. There's a new song playing in nature tonight. We can hear it in the rhythms and throbbings and sounds that come from the field and the forest and the sea and the water, and all earth is singing. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot hevel b'tzedek, ve'amim be'emunato. Page 17 for Psalm 97. However, sometimes smoke and clouds surround and shield us from feeling the justice and goodness of creation. Rather than hearing the song make its words of divine praise, we instead hear noise and can't quite discern the words. There's a special energy animating creation. That energy is heard by the righteous and the honorable. Or zarua latzahadik, ur yishrei lev simcha, simchu tzadikim badonai, vodu lezecher kodsho. Page 18, Psalm 98. Let me find a way to make music and join in with the song that's all around, that song that's making God's name, that's attesting to kindness and beauty and justice and harmony. Let me join in with God's creatures, join in with the song coming from the sea and the rivers. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot hevel b'tzedek, ve'amim be'mesharim. Psalm 99. The cloud I spoke of that makes it hard for me to connect to God sometimes, to the beauty in creation. We must remember that for Moses, Aaron, and Samuel, for those who called to God in the Torah, that the Torah says God replied and sang back to them from inside a pillar of cloud. Rather than see the cloud as an obstacle, let's see the cloud as part of the song and part of creation. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lehar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. And page 20, Psalm 29. Even in the greatest of storms, let's not hear the sound of thunder, even the crashing of the waves, even the gigantic cedars splitting as interruptions of the music, but as part of the music. For sometimes it is in the great storms that God speaks to us of our transition to a new reality. Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz ne'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. And that takes us to Lachadodi on page 21. We'll sing some of the verses, and then we'll turn the page and we'll sing the rest. And this is officially the song of coming together in love to welcome Shabbat. Lechadodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor, v'dibor echad hishmianu, el hamyuchad Adonai echad, shemo echad l'shem, u'tiferet v'litila, lechadodi likra kahala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat, lechu v'necha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem, nesucha sof maaseh, b'machshava techila, lechadodi likra kahala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, mikdash melech, melucha kumitzi, mitoch hafecha rav lach shevet, be'emek abacha behu yachamol, Allah yichemla, lechadodi likra kahala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, hitna ari me'afarkuhu mihilivshi bigdei, tifartecha mi ayad ben yishai behet halach mi korva el nafshi ge'ala. We turn the page. Lechadodi likra kahala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Middle 22. Yaminus ma'ot tifrot tziviyet Adonai ta'aritzi al yadish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila lechadodi likra kahala p'nei Shabbat nik. Please rise. And let's welcome the spirit of Shabbat as a bride welcoming, coming into the sanctuary for her wedding. Boi v'shalom atere ba'ala gam besimcha uvetzala toch emune aham segula boi kala lechadodi likra kahala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. We may be seated. That makes it official. We're officially in Shabbat on page 23 for the Shabbat psalm. Let's sing the final 4 lines, which tell us that children raised in the courts of the Jewish tradition and the courts of God grow strong in their values. They have very, very deep roots. They will grow tall and strong in their lives, and even in an advanced age, or maybe especially so. There will be fresh and new growth still coming from their tree. Tzadikata hamar yifrach, Ke'erez balvanon iskeshetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu odinuvon beseva Dishenim verananim yihu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri tzuri v'lo avlatabo. The rivers may rise and rage, and the waters may pound and pulsate. The floods may swirl and storm, but above the crash of the sea and its mighty breakers, those waves, is Adonai our God supreme. God's decrees never fail, and holiness befits God's house for eternity. Edotecha nemnu me'od, levidcha nava kodesh Adonai, le'orech yamim. We are now at the first of our 2 mourners' Kaddishes of the night. I'm going to read the list of those we're remembering for Yortzites at this time and invite everyone who's saying Kaddish at this time to rise in a moment. This Shabbat, Beth Israel congregation remembers, among others, the Yortzites of Tova Miriam Amanoff, Morris Appleman, Arthur Bernstein, Ellen Bodner, Hyman Brader, Nathaniel Francis Chaikin, Marianne Davis, Frank Fischel, Francis Fuchs, Charles Gelman, Pearl Gerber, Lila Green, Molly Greenfield, Toby Herson, Abraham Ralph Isaacs, Saul Kahn, Ann Lamp, Murray Henry Miller, Sarah Milstein, Mildred Monto, Rose Morris, Ellen Moss, Henry Nelson, Marty Perlman, Ira Stephen Pickell, Melvin Reich, Victor Rosenberg, Stuart Rothschild, Mamie Schaefer, Lily Scheinbaum, Bruce Serwin, Norman Shapiro, Ruth Sherman, Irving Sperling, Max Urist, and Florence Veneer, as we continue to remember Elaine Stoller, Natalie Scher, Susan Feingold Schultz, Judith Cashton, Lorraine Sherman, Michael Adams, Leona Leon, Phyllis Werbel, Fanchen Lessing, and Carol Feinerman, David Fallman, Bruce Thal, Carol Amster, Gary Joseph Ullman, Paul Ernest Phillips, Leslie Garber Matthews, Alan Fisherman, Raisa Levinskaya, and starting today, Alice Cohen. For those reciting the Kaddish, please rise and recite with me in the middle of 24. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya, Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. We all rise on page 28. Baruch hu et Adonai ha'mevorach. Baruch Adonai ha'mevorach le'olam va'ed. We may be seated. We continue silently on page 28. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Uma'avir yom uve'vi laila, mavdil ben yom uve'en laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch alenu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv, aravim. Page 29, we prepare for the Shema. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachvenu v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu v'yorech yameinu u'vahem nege yomam v'layla v'yavatcha tasmer l'olamim baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Continue together on page 30. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta habam b'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlachtecha baderech, uveshachbecha, uvekumecha, ukshartam liod al yadecha, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. We continue in silence for the rest of 30 and 31 and most of 32. You're also welcome to pick a reading from one of the bottoms of those pages. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Umalchuto bratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe Miriam uvnei Yisrael lechan yosha b'simcha haraba v'yamru chulaham mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh norati lo tosefele Malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yameru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'ne'emar kifadaha Adonai et Yaakov golo mechazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. On page 33, let's read in English the Hashkivenu, and let's wish for a special protection to protect the people of Ukraine. And as the prayer says, a very special protection to protect the people of Israel, who are also been undergoing so many terrorist attacks in recent weeks. Let's read together. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 34. Ve'shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, L'dorotam berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash. We now have the Chatzi Kaddish and then purely silent prayer. You don't have to do the liturgy when it's time for silent prayer. You can find whatever you think the prayer that you should be having at this moment in time in your life, in the lives of those you're connected to. What is the prayer? What are the thoughts that should be in your mind and shaping your experience and in the minutes, hours, days, and week ahead? I share a teaching in case it's something that, a Jewish teaching in case it's something that you connect with. Even though sometimes like things like that poem I've never read before in my career, I admit that you may have heard this one before because it's my favorite one in this book. I think about it every time I take my statin drug. So there we go. Yeah, you're like, there's something about statins in here and cholesterol? Absolutely. Reb Meir of Premishlan and Reb Yisrael of Ruzhin were the best of friends. Yet no two people could be more different. Reb Meir lived in great poverty. He never allowed even a penny to spend the night in his house, but would rush outside to give it to the poor. Reb Yisrael, on the other hand, lived like a king. These two friends once met as each was preparing to take a journey. They were the best of friends, loved each other. They once met as each was preparing to take a journey. Reb Meir was sitting on a simple cart drawn by one scrawny horse. Reb Yisrael was housed in a rich lacquered coach pulled by four powerful stallions. Reb Yisrael walked over to the horse hitched to Rebbe Meir's wagon, and with mock concern and jesting with his friend, he inspected the horse with great care. Then he turned to his friend and with barely concealed humor said to him, "I always travel with four strong horses. In this way, if my coach should become stuck in the mud, they will be able to free it quickly. I can see, however, that your horse seems barely able to carry you in your wagon, even on a dry and hard-packed road. And there's bound to be mud on your travels. Why do you take such risks?" Reb Meir stepped down from his wagon and walked over to his friend, who was still standing next to his poor scrawny horse, to his own Reb Meir's poor scrawny horse. Placing his arms around his beloved horse's neck, Reb Meir said softly, "The risk, I think, is yours, my friend, because I travel with this one horse that in no way can free this wagon if it becomes stuck in the mud. I am very careful to avoid the mud in the first place. And you, my friend, are certain you can get free of it if stuck, and thus you do not look where you're going." Please don't spend your Amidah wondering what this has to do with my cholesterol medication. But I know exactly what it means about my, if you need a hint, you can just wonder how much exercise and good diet I have. So every time I reach for that piece of pizza and I see my statin medicine, I think maybe I should think more about where I'm going rather than rely on my horse to pull me out. Please rise. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba b'yama divra kirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchayedecho beit Yisrael b'hagalav izman kariv v'yimeru amen yehev shmei rabba mevarach li'alam ulam ne'amaya Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'par v'tramam v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesham le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yama v'imeru. From 35b to 38, Hebrew or in English, or just simply the prayers, the thoughts that you should be having to shape these future moments. You're welcome to be seated when you're finished your prayers, but don't rush on my account. We are on page 47. I know it is customary. It says it's customary to stand, but that's not my custom because my custom is to sit as much as possible. So that's the truth of the matter. And we'll talk about that halachically on a different day where I'm already well into preparing a shiur, a lesson on that. So our custom is to sit as we continue on 47. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechal Elohim bayom hashvihi melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvihi mikol melachto asher asa vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvihi Vayekadesh oto, kivo shavat mikol melachto, kivo shavat mikol melachto, asher bara Elohim, asher bara Elohim la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Konei Shamayim v'Aaretz. At the bottom of page 47, even though we usually sing it in Hebrew, let's read it in English because this is actually a really interesting translation and a beautiful prayer. Shield of our ancestors by his promised word, guarantor of life to the dead, holy God beyond compare, who bestows rest to his people on the holy Shabbat, who takes pleasure in them and invites them to rest. We will honor God with reverence and awe and offer our thanks day after day, the source of blessings, God worthy of acclaim, the master of peace, hallows Shabbat, the seventh day, granting Shabbat in holiness to a people overflowing with joy, this day that recalls the act of creation. On page 48, let's continue in English. Our God and God of our ancestors, find favor in our Shabbat rest. Instill in us the holiness of your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, and gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts so that we might serve you faithfully. Lovingly and willingly, Adonai our God, grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, so that the people Israel who hallow your name will always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Adonai, who hallows Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Yikadav yikadash shemei rabba, v'yamad yivrakirte, v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechonu v'yamechonu v'chayeducho beit Yisrael, b'galav v'zman kari v'imeru. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach, li'alam ulam me'almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitola shmei kudusha le'ela min kol berchatav v'shiratav tishbatav v'nechematav damiram v'yamav v'imeru titgabal tzlo ton v'aton d'chol Yisrael kol dama v'hondi v'shmaya v'imeru Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'imeru Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru Amen. Aleinu, page 51, please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, v'teit kirula liyotzeh b'reishit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, V'gor aleinu kechol hamonam,
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהונות השמיים ועושה הארץ. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד,
We may be seated except for those who are reciting the Mourner's Kaddish. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra kirute v'amlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May their memories continue to bring blessings to this world, as I know they do. We may be seated. We're at the conclusion of the service. I want to let you know about a couple of announcements. Tomorrow morning, we look forward. I know Samantha may not be looking forward to it so much. I know, I've been there myself, but she'll be standing at this microphone and delivering beautiful haftarah about friendship and a Devar Torah with a message about friendship that really reflects her own spirit. We're looking forward to that and celebrating with her family. On Sunday, there's a Green Team meeting and also a Social Action Committee meeting this coming Sunday. On Tuesday evening, I really hope people, understand a lot of people, for people who are only comfortable on streaming, please join us by streaming. For those who are like, sometimes streaming, sometimes not, please come in person on Tuesday, May 3rd, 7 p.m. for our Yom HaZikaron ceremony. Remembers those who lost their lives serving the Israeli Defense Forces and in acts of terrorism. It's always very poignant and very important. On Saturday, May 7th, next Saturday, there will be Tat Shabbat in the courtyard right over there. And for those who haven't attended before or know someone who may have a person of the right age, then it's been really big and a lot of people and really, really nice. And Katie Shellup is doing an amazing job. On also that same morning, there is simultaneously from 10:30 to 11:30, our brand new elementary enrichment program, which has all kinds of fun activities that are enhanced with Jewish content that's educational. So it's not like just a service, but they've been building the actual model of the temple in Jerusalem and its implements out of Legos, and other kinds of things will be coming up related to Jewish yoga and prayer and things that kids like to do. Those are elementary activities, and Aleph Bet yoga and stuff like that. That's coming up next Saturday. And then on Sunday, May 8th, you're invited to register with our Director of Youth Education, Heather, for Family Bagels, Crafts and Learning. And again, that's mostly targeted to children of sort of elementary and middle school age. And that brings us to the end of the announcements. Takes us to page 54, Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chepso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yachare Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yeh betifara, vehu echad v'ein sheni. Laham shilo lehachbira, beli reshi, beli tachli, velo haoz v'hamisra, vehu eli v'chai goali. Vitzor chavli bi'et sahara, vehu nisi umanosli, menat kosi biyom ekra, biado afkid ruchi. Bi'eti shan v'ya'ir. Let's finish strong. V'im ruchi geviyati. Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat shalom. And after it gets dark tonight, say your blessing and remember that it's the beginning of the 14th day of the Omer. Shabbat shalom. Can't forget about the Omer.
You're exactly where you need to sit. Right, I mean, everyone's singing, and I'm singing too. Don't, you're not. We're all singing. And right, is that not, so this team. You'll be stepping there. The worst thing can happen is people start to be with family or.
So after they say Baruch Adonai HaMavrach Le'olam Va'ed, we say Baruch Adonai HaMavrach Le'olam Va'ed too, right? It says repeat after congregation. It's a great truth, right? Oh, it's right there. So you say it. Then, so in other words, we do this, then the congregation says this, and then we say it again, because it's right here, it's identical. Amin, Vanata, Manu, Etor, Tel, Baruch, Atan, Nine, Chain, Hatorah, right? That means Sammy does what I think, Baruch, Atan, Nine, Chain, Hatorah, Manu, Torah, and that's okay, along. I know. No, it's pretty big. Donna said it was really big. You think if we're gonna be done? Sure, why not? We'll have our hair done.
Yeah, we won't be there, you'll probably be done.
Yeah.
And honestly, you probably would get better at that time. Let's be honest, like if you want to. Well, I also be running here at 5:55, and I was like, oh, it's really going at 5:30. Yeah, 5:50. And it's comfortable.
plug it in.